1923 images T. Spencer facing a new threat and Alex growing despondent on the way to Montana. Spencer and Alex are on their separate ways to Montana and back to each other in new first-look images from 1923 Season 2. Brandon Sklenor's rough-and-tumble Spencer Dutton fell hard for Julia Flatfer's aristocratic Alexandra in 1923 Season 1, adding an element of epic romance to the Yellowstone prequel series. Having eloped, the pair set out for the Dutton Ranch in Montana to join Kara and Jacob in their battle to keep their land. But fate intervened, and the two were separated, setting up a pair of epic journeys in 1923 Season 2, which premieres February 23. In the first new image, Spencer is seen looking very grimy and apparently perturbed, as he seems to confront one among a group of similarly grungy men, several of whom look on in expectation of a possible fight. In the second image, Alex appears to be in a much better place in terms of her hygiene, as she sports a fashionable hat and coat. But the look on her face suggests all is not well as she waits on what looks like a train station bench, clutching a small book in her hand. Having already survived numerous life-threatening adventures on their long trip out of Africa, Spencer and Alex are once again on the road, but this time they don't have each other to lean on. A recently released 1923 Season 2 teaser trailer seemingly gave away that Spencer indeed makes it back to Montana to be reunited with Jacob, but Alex's fate remains up in the air. The pair of above images stay away from spoilers for obvious reasons, while teasing the emotional turmoil Alex and Spencer must endure as they make their separate ways to Montana. The exact nature of the couple's problems will be revealed when 1923 Season 2 streams on Paramount+. But if their new adventures are anything like what befell them in Season 1, they both have a lot of physical and emotional hardship yet to endure. That hardship is at the core of 1923 storytelling, as the Taylor Sheridan-created series bounces back and forth from the violence and chicanery around the Dutton Ranch to the Alex Spencer pairing and their own epic journeys. And the new images confirm that at least for Alex and Spencer, trouble will continue coming for a while. Sheridan threw viewers for a loop when, just as the couple seemed to be in the clear, he plunged Spencer and Alex into one last crisis, forcing the two of them apart. The satisfying, romantic 1923 Season 2 ending would see the couple reunited, having once again defied the odds. There's no guarantee Sheridan will deliver this ending, however. The current king of TV drama, Sheridan loves a good twist, and is only too happy to zig when viewers expect him to zag. It would be shocking indeed for him to deny viewers the sight of Alex and Spencer being reunited, and odds are he won't put 1923 fans through such an ordeal. On the other hand, if Sheridan wants to wrap up the series with a bang, there would be no better way than having something terrible befall Spencer and Slasher Alex, cutting short their romance and leaving audiences with their jaws on the floor and plenty of things to say on social media. The sun had already dipped below the horizon when Spencer Dutton, his face shadowed by a hat worn low, turned the reins of his horse in the direction of Montana. His eyes, though often hardened by the brutality of the world around him, betrayed the weariness that had begun to settle deep within. The trail ahead was long and fraught with dangers. He faced countless perils, but none of them had prepared him for the trouble that loomed on the horizon now, as Montana's rugged beauty beckoned. The chill in the air was sharp against his skin, the wind swirling with dust from the dry, endless plains. The landscape, once familiar and comforting, now felt alien. It was as if the very land itself had turned against him. Spencer's instincts, honed from years of dealing with enemies far more sinister than the average man, were on high alert. But it wasn't just the land that had changed. Something deeper had shifted within him, a sense of something brewing on the horizon, something he couldn't quite name. As he adjusted in the saddle, glancing behind him to the path he had left behind, Spencer felt it. A sudden, undeniable sense that he wasn't alone. His thoughts turned to Alex, who rode just behind him. She had been quiet lately, her usual fire dimmed. The journey west had tested her in ways he hadn't anticipated. She was a strong woman, but even the strongest had their breaking points. Spencer had always admired Alex's spirit, but he had come to understand that the weight of their journey, of the world they lived in, was becoming too much for her to bear. Alex's silhouette was barely visible against the twilight as she struggled to keep up with the pace he had set. She had been distant, lost in thought, her eyes glazed over as if something within her had shifted, crumbling under the weight of their circumstances. Spencer couldn't help but notice the subtle change in her demeanor, the way her shoulders slumped slightly as though she was carrying an invisible burden. And though he was no stranger to burdens, he knew this one was different. The trail was treacherous, but Alex seemed to be less and less aware of the dangers around her. Spencer watched her, his gaze flicking between her and the rugged terrain ahead. He knew that if he didn't act soon, this trip would be more than just a physical journey. It would become an emotional one that neither of them could survive. In the distance, the dim lights of a small town flickered on the horizon. Montana was closer than they had ever been, but Spencer could feel the pull of something darker waiting for them. His instincts were screaming at him, the same way they had when he first faced the ruthless men who had tried to take his life. There was something, or someone, waiting for him, something that would make the battles he had fought before seem like mere skirmishes. Alex's voice cut through the silence, soft but clear. "Spencer." Her tone held a weight of despair that he hadn't heard from her before. Her words trailed off, and he could see her hand trembling on the reins, as if it took all of her strength just to hold on. "Alex," he replied, his voice low, filled with concern. "What's wrong? Talk to me." She didn't respond immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the ground, and her lips parted as if she were trying to summon the courage to speak. The wind howled, carrying with it the scent of pine and earth, but it was no match for the tension that hung between them. Alex's voice faltered, the words seeming to catch in her throat. "I don't know if I can do this anymore." Spencer's brow furrowed, his heart tightening as he listened to her words. He could see the emptiness in her eyes, a despondence that hadn't been there before. This wasn't just the physical toll of the journey. This was something deeper. The trail had worn her down, but it was the weight of the world, the weight of their shared past, that had finally taken its toll. "Alex." Spencer's voice softened as he guided his horse closer to hers, reaching out to her with an understanding that was rare for him. "We've made it this far. We can make it the rest of the way." But Alex shook her head, her shoulders trembling with the force of her emotions. "I don't know if I can. It's too much. The loss, the danger, the unknown." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, Spencer saw a vulnerability in her that was almost foreign. Spencer didn't have the words to make it better. He knew what it was like to carry the weight of pain and loss, to feel as if the world was closing in on you. But he also knew that he couldn't let her fall. He couldn't let the woman who had been his strength and partner crumble in front of him. There had to be something left to hold on to. There had to be a way forward. "I'm here," he said softly, his eyes locking with hers. "You're not alone in this. We'll face whatever comes together." But even as the words left his mouth, Spencer couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more. Something that Alex wasn't telling him. A hidden threat, perhaps, something buried deep within the dark corners of the world they were about to enter. Something that threatened not just their journey, but their very existence. The night grew colder, the wind biting at their skin, but Spencer's thoughts were consumed with the foreboding sense of danger that lay ahead. He could feel the weight of Alex's sadness, her despondency. But it was the nagging sense that a new threat loomed just beyond the horizon that truly gnawed at him. Ahead, Montana's rugged peaks loomed like silent sentinels, watching over them as they approached. Spencer didn't know what awaited them, but one thing was certain. The journey to Montana was far from over. And whatever dangers awaited them there, they would have to face them head-on, together, or they would fall apart. Alex's eyes flicked up to meet his, and in that brief moment, he saw something in her. A glimmer of the fierce woman he had come to love, a flicker of hope. It was enough for now. Spencer nodded, his jaw clenched in determination. He would protect her. He would protect them both. But as they pressed forward into the darkening night, Spencer couldn't help but wonder. Would the road to Montana be their salvation, or would it be the final chapter in their fight for survival?